The fight or flight response is a physiological reaction that occurs in response to a perceived threat or stressor. This response, also known as the stress response, is designed to prepare the body to confront or flee from a potential danger. Our perception plays a crucial role in triggering the fight or flight response. Key elements of the fight or flight response. Perception of threat. The response begins with the perception of a threat or stressor. This perception can be real or perceived, and it triggers a cascade of physiological changes in the body. Activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Once the brain perceives a threat, particularly in the amygdala, a part of the brain involved in processing emotions, it sends signals to activate the sympathetic nervous system. This system is responsible for the fight or flight response. Release of stress hormones. The activation of the sympathetic nervous system leads to the release of stress hormones, primarily adrenaline, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. These hormones prepare the body for quick and intense action. Physiological changes. Various physiological changes occur to optimize the body's ability to respond to the threat. These changes include increased heart rate, elevated blood pressure, dilation of the airways, and mobilization of energy stores, e.g., glucose, for immediate use. Redirected blood flow. Blood flow is redirected away from non-essential functions, such as digestion, and towards muscles and organs needed for immediate action. This ensures that the body is prepared for physical exertion. Role of perception. Subjective nature of threat. The perception of threat is subjective and varies from person to person. What one person perceives as threatening, another may not. It's not only about external stimuli, but also about how an individual interprets and evaluates the situation. Cognitive appraisal. Cognitive appraisal, the process of evaluating the significance of a stressor, influences whether a situation is perceived as threatening or not. This appraisal is influenced by past experiences, beliefs, and individual differences. Emotional response. Emotions, particularly fear and anxiety, are closely tied to the perception of threat. The amygdala, a part of the brain associated with emotions, plays a key role in processing and interpreting threat-related information. Chronic stress and perception. Chronic stress can lead to a heightened state of arousal and a more sensitive perception of potential threats. This can result in a frequent or prolonged activation of the fight-or-flight response, which may have negative effects on health. Impact on behavior. Fight, flight, or freeze. In response to a perceived threat, individuals may exhibit the classic fight or flight responses. Some may confront the threat directly, fight, while others may seek to avoid or escape, flight. In certain situations, individuals may also experience a freeze response. Decision-making. The fight or flight response can influence decision-making. Under acute stress, decisions may be focused on immediate survival rather than long-term considerations. Adaptability. The ability to perceive and respond to threats is evolutionarily adaptive. It allowed our ancestors to react quickly to potentially life-threatening situations, enhancing their chances of survival. Understanding how perception influences the fight or flight response can be valuable for managing stress and developing coping strategies. Techniques such as mindfulness, cognitive restructuring, and stress management can help individuals modulate their perception of stressors and promote a more balanced response to challenging situations. Perception is crucial in the context of the fight or flight response because it is the initial cognitive process that triggers the entire physiological and behavioral cascade in response to a perceived threat. The fight or flight response is an evolutionary mechanism designed to prepare the body to deal with immediate danger. Here's why perception is so important in this context. Rapid assessment of threat. The fight or flight response begins with the brain's rapid assessment of a situation to determine whether it poses a threat. Perception allows the individual to quickly evaluate their environment and identify potential dangers. Activation of the amygdala. The amygdala, a part of the brain associated with emotions and the processing of threat-related information, plays a central role in the perception of danger. When the amygdala perceives a threat, it triggers the initiation of the fight or flight response. Subjectivity of threat. Threat perception is subjective and can vary from person to person. What one person perceives as a threat, another may not. This subjectivity is influenced by individual experiences, beliefs, and the context of the situation. Cognitive appraisal. Cognitive appraisal involves evaluating the significance of a stressor or threat. Individuals assess whether a situation requires a fight, flight, or freeze response based on their cognitive appraisal of the perceived danger. Emotional response. Emotions, particularly fear and anxiety, are closely tied to the perception of threat. The emotional response triggered by perception prepares the body for immediate action and influences decision-making. Activation of the sympathetic nervous system. Once a threat is perceived, signals are sent to activate the sympathetic nervous system. This system releases stress hormones like adrenaline, leading to physiological changes that prepare the body for physical exertion. Redirected blood flow. Perception of threat prompts. The redirection of blood flow away from non-essential functions, such as digestion, to the muscles and organs needed for quick action. This ensures that the body is ready for a rapid response. Adaptive response. The fight or flight response is an adaptive mechanism that enhances an individual's chances of survival in the face of immediate danger. Perception allows for quick decision-making and the initiation of physiological changes needed to respond effectively. Integration of sensory information. Perception involves integrating sensory information from the environment. The brain processes visual, auditory, and other sensory cues to create a coherent understanding of the situation, influencing the subsequent behavioral response. Impact on behavior. The perceived threat shapes behavior. Depending on the nature and severity of the threat, an individual may choose to confront, fight, avoid, flight, or, in certain situations, experience a freeze response. In summary, perception acts as the trigger for the fight or flight response, initiating a rapid and coordinated series of physiological and behavioral changes designed to help an individual respond to perceived threats effectively. This process highlights the intricate connection between cognitive processes, emotions, and the body's physiological responses in adapting to challenging situations. Our mind plays a significant role in shaping our perception of reality. The way we interpret and make sense of the world is heavily influenced by cognitive processes, emotions, beliefs, and past experiences. Here are several ways in which the mind influences our perception of reality. Selective attention. The mind tends to focus on specific stimuli while filtering out others. This selective attention influences what we notice and remember, shaping our perception of reality by emphasizing certain aspects over others. Cognitive biases. Cognitive biases are systematic patterns of deviation from norm or rationality in judgment. These biases, such as confirmation bias, availability bias, or anchoring, can lead to distorted perceptions of reality by influencing the way we interpret information. Past experiences. Our past experiences create a framework through which we interpret new information. The mind relies on past knowledge to make sense of the present, shaping our perception of reality based on previous encounters and learning. Beliefs and expectations. Personal beliefs and expectations influence how we perceive and interpret information. If we hold certain beliefs, we are more likely to perceive events in a way that aligns with those beliefs, even if the information is ambiguous. Emotional state. Emotions play a crucial role in shaping perception. Our emotional state can color our perception, making events seem more positive or negative depending on our current emotional well-being. Cultural and social influences. Cultural and social factors contribute to the formation of our worldview. Our cultural background, social norms, and the influences of our community shape our understanding of what is considered real or acceptable. Attentional control. The mind can control attention based on goals and priorities. When we have a specific focus or goal, our perception may be biased toward information that aligns with those goals. Perceptual filters. Our sensory perceptions are filtered through cognitive processes. This means that what we see, hear, and feel is not an exact representation of the external world, but is influenced by how our brain processes sensory information. Memory reconstruction. Memory is not a perfect recording of events, but a reconstructive process influenced by various factors. Our memories are subject to change over time, and the mind can inadvertently alter or reinterpret past events. Self-concept and identity. Our self-concept and identity shape how we perceive ourselves and others. The mind may filter information that aligns with our self-concept, reinforcing a consistent narrative about who we are. Motivation and goals. Personal motivation and goals influence our perception by directing attention toward information that is relevant to our objectives. This can lead to a biased interpretation of reality based on our aspirations. The power of suggestion. Suggestions and external influences can shape our perception. If we are primed to expect a certain outcome, or if information is presented in a suggestive manner, it can impact how we perceive reality. Understanding how the mind influences our perception of reality can lead to greater self-awareness. It allows us to critically examine our thoughts, biases, and beliefs, fostering a more nuanced and accurate understanding of the world around us.